Hi, I'm Eileen, the Mellow Astrologer, and today I wanted to chat with you about a recent full moon that we had. So sometimes I actually create these videos after a specific astrological event because I have found that it's much easier to reflect upon that event and to discern how we felt the energies rather than to place expectations on what is going to transpire. So the event that we just had is a monthly event, and that was a lunation. We had a full moon in the sign of Capricorn on Thursday morning, June 24th, 2021. Okay, so every year during Cancer season, we have a full moon in Capricorn because if you're following my videos, you know that the full moon is always in opposition in the zodiac to the sun. So the sun is in Cancer, and the opposite sign of the zodiac is Capricorn, and therefore the full moon is in the sign of Capricorn. So typically, we can anticipate then that the archetypes that we are experiencing that come to the fore of our life during a full moon are the archetypes or themes and energies of the sun and the moon. The sun is, of course, illuminating the moon, and the moon is our emotional nature, our emotional bodies, and therefore there is an emotional revelation of some kind. This doesn't have to be the heavens parting and angels trumpeting revelation, but just a personal insight or uncovering something that we are witnessing and is coming to awareness for us, okay? The moon changes signs once every 2.5 days, so we actually feel the full moon energy for quite a few days. It's like a solid 24 hours, but I usually feel it for 2 days. Even if you're very sensitive, you might feel it for 3 days. It really depends on what time of day the full moon hits, right? Because we're sleeping through part of these days. So I would like to talk about, first of all, the Cancer archetypes, because we are in Cancer season, and Venus has been in Cancer for the last 2 weeks. She will be moving into the sign of Leo in just a week, and I'm going to make another video about that because once every 2 years, Venus and Mars meet in the same sign, and that usually it can be a very creative or passionate time because Mars and Venus are the celestial lovers. Okay, now if you haven't already downloaded my freebie, you should grab it. It is a list of all the important dates in the year, including right here when Venus and Mars meet. Okay, so these are important times in the year that you want to remember, and then I also have some tips for how to utilize the energy. So I have a link in the bottom of this video, or in the video description rather, so take a look and download that. It links all of these important dates directly to your digital calendar. It's pretty effortless for you. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps with the analytics, you know all of that, and do subscribe to my channel and get the alerts if you want to know when I'm posting. So going back to the Cancer archetype, what Cancer wants more than anything, and before I go into this, actually, before I tell you, consider that the sign of Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is one of the luminaries. In astrology, we talk about the big three: our suns, our moons, and our ascendant or rising sign. Ascendant and rising sign are used synonymously. So the sun, the moon, and the ascendant are the three pillars of your personality. So for everyone, the moon is exceptionally important to your astrology. Okay, that's one of the first things I look at when I pull up a person's chart. Sun, moon, ascendant, all astrologers. So Cancer, the moon, and also the 4th house for you students of astrology. If you're not a student, just ignore that I said the 1st house, but Cancer and the moon, okay, and the 4th house. This is an archetypal unit. So we sometimes use these words interchangeably when referring to Cancerian energy. The reason I'm spending so much time on this is to emphasize that we all have a moon in our chart, and it is one of the most substantial aspects of our astrology. So even though the sun is in Cancer and you might think, oh, that only applies to Cancers, it does not. It also applies to you because the energy of the Cancerian archetype is applicable to your moon, even if your moon is in a different sign. Okay, so your moon will be emoting from the characteristics of the different sign, but all moons emote in a similar manner, just like we could say there are different breeds of dogs, but dogs are dogs, right? Moons are moons, they just come in different signs. That was a silly metaphor. So among so many different archetypes. The moon is about how we nurture. It has a lot to do with our early childhood, the feminine, our mothers, food generally, because it's nourishment. How do we feed ourselves literally and metaphorically? Okay, so Cancer is here, Cancerian energy, all of us with our moons, we are all learning how to effectively nurture ourselves and others. Cancer is a water sign. Hello, it's the moon, right? It's dictating the tides and the all water, which is our planet is mostly water, our bodies are mostly water. So it's extremely important in terms of its archetypal energies around water, and it is where our intuition lies. Okay, so those who actually have a Cancer sun are particularly intuitive. It is considered the most psychic or intuitive of the signs, but we all have a moon again. So we all have it, we all have intuition, we all have the ability to access our intuition. Cancers have a more astute ability to do this, okay? Or those with a strong moon, we can also have an exalted moon in our charts or very strong lunar energy in our charts that would also give us access to heightened intuition. But what I really want you to take away from what I'm saying right now is Cancer is about nurturing. How do we nurture ourselves and others? And it's also about attending to the emotional needs, your emotional needs. Cancer is like all, actually I'm going to retract that. Cancer is one of the signs that is represented by a animal that has a shell. Okay, the scorpion could be considered similar. So Cancers tend to tuck in when they get afraid or uncomfortable, overwhelmed, especially emotionally, and they hide. So this is a sign and energy that can become easily overwhelmed and does need to take time out for itself to process its emotions. So when we are in Cancer season, our emotions can be heightened. We can be looking at how are we doing self-care, how are we not doing self-care, okay, which is usually the case. And are we hiding and withdrawing when really we should be coming out of our shells and confronting or just tackling something head on versus hiding for too long, right? Cancers like to be at home withdrawing. Okay, now the flip side of all of this in the zodiac is Capricorn. So Capricorn is the opposing sign, as I mentioned, to Cancer. And it is symbolized by the mountain goat reaching the highest heights. Okay, so the crabs bury themselves in the sand and the mountain goats are climbing sheer mountain cliffs. And we've all seen these images, right, of like the Italian mountain goats that are climbing these dams, D-A-M, dams, and they're like these sheer vertical dams. It's mind-blowing. And I love these images. If you haven't seen it, Google Italian mountain goat dam and it will come up for you. Maybe I'll even link here in the description. And I'm bringing this up because it is so symbolic of how Capricorn energy can master anything it sets its mind to. It can accomplish darn near anything, including scaling a vertical cliff. Okay. Now, Capricorn is ruled by the planet Saturn. So Saturn, the 10th house, and Capricorn are an archetypal unit. Again, ignore this if it's too advanced for you, just focus on the Capricorn. So we just had this full moon, Cancer, Capricorn, the moon is in Capricorn. Moon doesn't really like to be in Capricorn because Capricorn is a very physical, material sign, whereas Cancer is where the moon loves to be because it's water and emotional and it's representative of all the things that the moon is, okay? Capricorn is quite different than that. So when we look at the astrology, we look at the oppositions between signs to help balance each other. So when Capricorn is out of balance, it looks to Cancer to assist it in observing what characteristics could be drawn from to balance itself, and then of course vice versa. So Cancers are here to learn from an evolutionary perspective about nurturing and nurturing others, especially the family unit. It has a very primal quality to it in terms of like your ethnic group, your racial group, your core family, okay? And Capricorn is here to learn about responsibility. I know that's not very sexy, us poor Capricorns. I'm a Capricorn. I feel like we kind of get the short end of the stick because we're the ones who are making sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and we're the ones who pick up the newspaper that's been sitting on the front porch for 2 weeks that 8 people have walked over and are too lazy or out to lunch to pick up. The Capricorn sees it and picks it up. That's us. Lots of fun. So Capricorns are here to learn about mastery through responsibility. Okay? Now, like all of these archetypes, there are positive expressions of the energy and there are negative expressions of the energy. So it's like virtuous side versus the shadow side. So Cancers can be pretty dramatic with their over emotionalness. They don't mean to be dramatic, not in the way that Leos are, but they are moody. The moodiest of all the signs is Cancer, followed shortly by Gemini. Okay, but remember, we all have a moon in our chart, and the moon is the moodiness. Okay. So that's one of the shadow sides of Cancerian energy. I mentioned before that it withdraws and avoids especially when it's overwhelmed, or if it just doesn't like a situation. It'll just go inside of itself and pretend that that thing does not need to be attended to. It's also exceptionally good at nurturing others at the expense of itself, or being so good at nurturing others that it has really no idea how to nurture itself. Okay. Capricorn's shadow sides predominantly are fear and control. Hypocrisy falls under there. Its virtuous sides, in addition to taking responsibility, is excellence, organization, leadership skills, and being able to distinguish itself through its mastery. So I like to think about Capricorns making the best products, or your Italian crafted shoes. That's a Capricorn who made that pair of shoes for you. And then it's other Capricorns, Libras and Leos, who buy them, because we're the ones who appreciate that beauty and the longevity and the quality. Okay. Just a little astro joke for you there. So I'm bringing this up because I want you to consider what this lunation, the full moon, the themes that were up for all of us during the full moon. So what I'm getting at here is the nurturing, and then also this fear and needing to take responsibility for ourselves. So Cancer is looking at Capricorn to balance it, and vice versa. So if Cancer is withdrawing and avoiding, it looks over to Capricorn, who says, I'm going to self-reflect and take responsibility for myself in this situation. Responsibility is a term that has a lot of nuance. So it's not just that you're taking responsibility for yourself. It could be that perhaps you're taking responsibility for something you shouldn't be taking responsibility for. Women are particularly good at this, okay? Like, oh, it was my fault that happened. No, you're not in control of somebody else's behavior or words, right? Like maybe you participated in the outcome of an event, but you're never responsible for another person unless it's your child, right? So often some people will take on more responsibility than is warranted. And we get to reflect on, well, why would you do that? What's the utility of taking on more responsibility than is warranted? Or why are you not taking the responsibility that you should? So during this lunation, I'm curious if any of you, please leave comments, had any experiences where you noticed that you're in fear about something, particularly about how to nurture yourself, or where you could bring more nurturing to your life or to your systems and processes. That's a Capricorn keyword there, because it's so good with business acumen, Capricorn. So where can you be nurturing different aspects of your life, taking more responsibility for different aspects of your life, but you are not because you are in fear, okay? Or you're controlling, you want to control the outcome because you're afraid. Control usually stems from fear, right? We don't control things if we're not afraid of it. If we're cool with how something is going and the outcome, then we sit back and we relax. So if you find yourself being really controlling or hypocritical even, or fearful, these are Capricorn Saturnian qualities, okay? Again, you don't have to be a Capricorn or have a strong Saturn in your chart to exhibit these qualities, because we all have Saturn in our chart. And the astrology is representative of all aspects of human experience and universal experience. So these are energies and themes that we are all experiencing in our lives. Some of us will experience certain ones more than others, and you can see that reflected in our astrology. So as a Capricorn, I obviously am experiencing the Capricornian archetypes more strongly than, say, a Leo would, perhaps, okay? I wouldn't necessarily say more strongly than a Cancer, definitely a little bit more because my sun is in Capricorn, but I am the polarity. Capricorn is the polarity to Cancer energy generally. So you're also learning a lot about the polarity, whether or not you're thinking of it in these terms, okay? So for this last full moon, we also had Mercury retrograde. Actually, Mercury had already gone at station and is now direct, but we're still in the shadow period. So I'm curious if you could leave me a comment, let me know if you noticed in any way, shape, or form, if you had fear or control arise, or if you realized you're not taking good self-care, or you're not nurturing some aspect of your life or your business or something like this, a relationship perhaps, where you're not putting as much time and attention to it as you could be, your finances, and whether or not that lack of nurturing stemmed from some type of fear, okay, that needs to be reflected upon. This could be the reverse as well, where we nurture others because we don't want to have to think about ourselves. So it's easier to turn the lens outward instead of inward. Capricorn Saturn is very much about self-reflection. It's one of the more self-reflective signs, which is why it can sometimes be prone to melancholia, okay? Yes, so next video I will be talking to you about more about the Venus-Mars conjunction, which happens on July 13th, and we are still, this month was a doozy of a month. We had the Saturn-Uranus square, we had an eclipse, at the end of May, we had this Mercury retrograde, and I don't know about you, but I found June to be quite the ass kicker. So if you found it to be an ass kicker, I'm not surprised, especially with this full moon in Cancer Capricorn. Like I said, the moon is not so fond of being in Capricorn, so we usually feel it as like a heavy energy, a lot of duty and burdens perhaps, and just like chores, So let me know how it went for you, and your prompt, if you have a spiritual practice, is to self-reflect on the themes of nurturing, self-nurturing, and responsibility. Where are you taking responsibility and maybe you shouldn't be? Where are you not taking responsibility? Where are you afraid to take responsibility? Why are you afraid to nurture yourself, etc.? Okay? I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful day. Please subscribe to my channel. Ciao, ciao.